right. Hi, everybody. How you doing? I am Johan. That is Charleston. Today on today's episode with Better With Age webcast, we have, I love this guest. This guy is controversy. You either love him, you hate him. He's fucking one of the best. I call him the Adam Schefter of the CFL, Mr. Justin Dunk. How you doing, Justin? How's life?
Man, I'm just chilling, I'm curious. So, Chucky, I'm glad I'm not in the same room with you because I feel like you'd probably be hitting me, bro. Last time I saw you, I thought you were going to run my ass over in the tunnel at Mosaic Stadium. You were hurt, I believe. You weren't playing, and you looked at me and you're like, bro, how you be knowing all this shit that goes on in the league?
Well, okay, so
I'm like, oh my God, I think Chuck hates me.
Me and Charleston were just talking about that, Justin, about 5 minutes before you came on. We were saying, I was telling Charleston, I was going, fuck, how the hell does Justin, he's got to have ears to the ground everywhere because Charleston can fart in Regina. Next day, fucking Justin sent him a message. Hey, did you shit your pants in Regina? What the fuck's happening here?
I don't know how he do it, man, but he always got some feedback, got some insider details, like something just happened in the locker room. Hey, what happened? No, this happened in the locker room, man. I don't know. Yeah. Hey, you can't trust a guy like that. That's all I know.
I don't know about that. I feel like, to be quite honest, amidst all the laughs and stuff, that's one of the reasons why I think I've been so successful is because I always keep to my word, right? If it's something that's just between me and whoever that source happens to be, that's where it stays. But if it's a big enough story where the scoop's got to come out, man, it comes out. So some people feel like it's sneaky, but you develop relationships because of the trust, man. It's almost like the guys you play with on the field, Charleston. The best teams are those teams that are the tightest.
Right. No, 100%, man. I mean, I can understand that part because that's part of your job too, man. I think it's funny because when you find out some information that just happened and people get mad. How the hell Justin Dunk figure that out third down nation? How they figure that? And I'm just like, man, he got his way, so yeah, it's your fault. You got a leak in your room.
Have you had any? Speaking of that, have you had any death threats? Have you had any violence in your, career over the last few years reporting?
I won't say any names, but there's been some stories where I heard that some coaches told some sort of underlings that they wanted to go out and maybe push me down a staircase was one that I heard, actually. I was like, man, I better be careful. I need to get a guy like Charleston to walk around with me because you never know who's going to come.
You don't got to do that. You just got to make sure you take the elevator.
Ooh, true.
Wise words from Charleston.
Oh, it's happened to the best of us. I mean, I was just telling Johan, I got a threat like that before when I sacked Ricky Ray, I think in 2012, 11, and I knocked him out for the entire season. And
you're just doing your job, man.
But I was just doing my job. But I drove in the dirt, knocked him out for the season. Everybody started yelling like I was a dirty player. You knocked out our quarterback. You did that on purpose. Next time you come to Toronto, I know the hotel you guys stay at. I'm gonna come to the Intercontinental Hotel. And when I see you crossing the street, I'm either hit you with my car. I'm gonna break your leg with a sledgehammer. Be ready. Watch your back.
Dude.
It sent me like a personal message to my email saying all this crazy mess, and then I got a little scared and reported the hell out of the person to the.
Man, I would too.
Police. Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so,
bro, you never know out there.
Yeah, I mean, what happened, Charleston, with that? You just reported to the RCMP or to the?
I reported to RCMP, and I think RCMP tracked his IP address down because he went on my my personal web page, and then he found my email and emailed me through my fan page. And then after that, they contacted him and just told him if he ever writes something like that again, there will be further repercussion because of that. So, oh yeah.
There should be, man. He's uttering threats.
Yeah,
can't be doing that.
I mean, so Justin, how do you survive here? And when you just mentioned you came to Regina, how the fuck do you survive with all the stories about Rider Nation? This, I feel Saskatchewan fans, they fucking either love you. If it's a good story about Cody Fajardo, I love it. Yes, he's gonna win. Then just had a story about Cody a few weeks ago, and then it goes on Twitter that he the wrong way. Next thing you know, you have Rider fans going, "Fuck Justin Dung."
That's what I mean. That's how you know. That's how you know you either doing a damn good job of getting people's attention when you can get under Cody Fajardo's skin. I don't even know if Cody cuss. Cody don't say no cuss word. You know, he's a straight by the book kind of guy. But once you can get under his skin, that's when you know hey man, people watching.
Deal with all the Rider fans and all that out here, man. Like, it's crazy.
All right, I'll touch on the Rider fans first. I'll get to Cody in a second because, you know, from all I heard, he's a good dude. But to be quite honest, guys, what I've noticed is that when I've been in Regina or Saskatoon, and I've done a bunch of university games over the last few years, man, Saskatoon has great food, by the way. Really love going there. And then obviously Regina, Rider Nation. So always love my time there. But when you actually see people in person, they don't say very much. They're friendly. So as much as there's all these keyboard warriors out there and a lot of guys that, you know, get after you, and I'm sure Charleston's experienced this too after hits on Ricky Ray or some of the stuff he does in the games when he's just doing his job. Like, let's say, for example, the Johnny Manziel story. It's a fact. The Riders were fined by the league. They worked out Johnny Manziel, but still people want to say that it's a conspiracy or it was made up. But look, man, there's a lot of work that goes into the reporting. But I found that when I'm there, actually, people just want to talk ball, man. And what they do every single time I've actually noticed is they come up to me, kind of like Charleston did when I saw him in the hallway at Mosaic, and they'll say, like, yo, what do you know? What's going on? Who's going to be traded? Who's going to sign? What's going down? Give us the good. They want the inside scoop. And to be quite honest, as much as some of the people in the league hate when stories come out, that even happens when I go to the league office too, or when I've stopped in there because I used to work for CFL.ca. People in the league office say, hey, you heard what's going on around the league with this guy or that guy. And I'm going, these are the same people that claim they hate it, but they love it, man. So Charleston's right. And I just want to touch on Cody Fajardo real quick because I do feel like I made a slight error in the sense that I think that he was joking, and we posted the video clip as well from it to really put it out there that people could actually see how he meant it. But I mean, Charleston, I'm curious from you. When you step on that field, you think you're going to win every game. You think you're going to win the Grey Cup every year. I would think the same way if I was an athlete. So I took it from Cody as confidence. I didn't take it any other way, that he should think that way.
I mean, yeah, I feel what you're saying. Like, you should be on another level of confidence, especially because he's coming off a really good year and he's going into having to prove himself or, you know, maintain that performance to get better. So, I mean, you're supposed to have that kind of confidence. I go in every season saying I'm going to lead the league in sacks again, and ain't nobody going to stop me.
And it's true.
Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with being that confident, man, especially because you gotta hold yourself to a high standard anyways. You're not gonna go in saying, I'm gonna have a subpar kind of game, and you know, I don't know if I'm gonna play this good this year, but I'm gonna try. No, heck no. If you leaving doubt in yourself to say that I'm just gonna try, no, you're not gonna get it done. You gotta go in telling yourself the utmost, pump your own brakes if you have to say, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna do this, hands down.
So we've talked a little bit about Cody, but are there some other athletes that you've interviewed over the last few years here that you really love to be able to talk to and be able to still get excited about, and vice versa? Has there been some athletes? We were just talking with Jim Barker today. Jim Barker goes, yeah, there's some players that I love to cut. They're real dinks. You know, if real dinks out there that you're going like, what the fuck am I wasting my time with this guy?
Yeah, they called him a bunch of dinks. Yeah. Those dinks.
And, or has there been some players that, you know, for me, I've been a fan of the CFL for many years, since back in the days of Conorovich, Holloway, Terry Greer. The Argos are my team, even though I grew up here in Saskatchewan. I get excited when you get a chance to talk to a guy like Jim Barker. You get to talk to Don Narcisse, or you know, all these different guys. Anybody that stands out to you when you're going up, you kind of get a little bit nervous, or you still get the jitters, or you get excited to talk to?
Man, the one guy for me, and some people are going to laugh at this, but that was fascinating, was Johnny Football when he was up here, because he was with the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and I was at practice as much as possible when he was here because I found it so interesting. And I remember the amount of media that was there for his first media appearance was unbelievable. Like, I haven't seen anything like that up here in my career. Now, I'm a little bit on the younger side, but it was surreal because you're talking to this guy that wasn't just a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. He's a legit celebrity, right? Whatever that dude does, like, TMZ is following him around everywhere. So anything that he says, I mean, people just kind of gobble it up. And he's such a fascinating person in terms of how he got to the fame so quickly. And for me, I remember, like, that was when I was just done my playing career at the University of Guelph, and watching what Manziel did just felt like any guy, whatever position they were, but especially the quarterback at his size, because I'm pretty much the same size as he is, you know, about 5'11". I think Manziel was around 200 pounds. I was like, that's me out there. This guy's winning the Heisman in the SEC, making Alabama and Florida and all these teams look stupid. So to interview him, and along with the fact that he had gone through all of the trials and tribulations of the NFL, and the fact that he was actually here, because people had talked about it for so long. And I'll give you a little nugget because I remember it, and it's sort of the other side of the business, right? When I get a tip about something that's going on, and somebody had actually told me, and I'll never forget this, at the U Sports East-West Bowl earlier that year, that, hey, you better look into it because they're trying to get Manziel across the border. And I remember thinking, there is no fucking way in hell that Johnny Manziel is coming to play in the CFL. No way. And I didn't chase down the tip. And man, it would have been the biggest story I would have broken in my entire career. Well, maybe aside from him working out for the Riders, but it'd have to be Johnny Manziel would be my favorite, man.
That's awesome.
Oh man, I remember. I think I
you
saw
sack
Johnny.
Manziel?
No, I couldn't. Oh man, he's athletic, man. I remember I almost did, and he escaped just by like just a cunt here.
Yo, I was gonna say shoelace.
Yeah, he just escaped. And then next thing I know, he came running back to the damn huddle and was like, "Hey Hughes, you almost got me right there, huh? I'm quicker than I look, right?" And I'm thinking like, man, what's wrong with this dude? Like, and he's talking like that the whole entire game. Well, he'll drop back and he'll throw an out route, boom, and then he'll go, "Woo, that was a good throw, right?" And then we all looking like, man, this dude got issues if he out here complimenting himself on every single good play that he makes. But I thought it was hilarious though, yeah.
But you know, it's funny you mentioned Johnny Manziel because we've had on different guests, whether it was Darcy Hordachuk, you know, former NHL enforcer. He was talking, and Darcy apparently rents. He's got some condos for rent in Phoenix, in Scottsdale, and one of the tenants he rents to is Johnny Manziel. And he was telling us that Manziel, he can never fucking track down to pay the rent because he's all over the place. So he's chasing him. So he's telling us that story. And then you had John Bowman we had on a few weeks ago, and Bowman was telling us about, you know, Manziel and how he's a good guy and do that. It just seems like, and even myself as a fan, I wanted to watch Manziel. I wanted to see him succeed because I thought he would be like almost the second coming of a Doug Flutie with that kind of stature and that kind of arm and that kind of, it seemed like he knew the game very well, can just adjust, but apparently he couldn't, or, you know, he had some other issues. But he's one of those characters, that is just fascinating no matter what to everybody, it seems, out there. And then Charleston would tell the story about how he's yipping on the field. He's like going, "Fuck yeah, I want to hear that." So
I think he could have been a ball player up here, man. He just needed some time to like adjust to the style of game because it is different. I mean, there's no different from Vernon Adams. I mean, he had some highs and some lows all throughout his career up here, and all of a sudden last year, boom, it all clicks.
Man, I was going to say, Charleston, I feel like if he wasn't put into that situation and forced to start in Montreal, the Hamilton was going about it properly, right? They were giving him that time to learn. June Jones absolutely loved him, right? That famous quote where he thought he could be the best CFL player of all time, but they were allowing him to develop and learn. And you know how important that is. So the fact that Montreal trades for him, obviously that is a blockbuster deal all unto itself that still has reverberations in Montreal. But the fact that they rushed him in there, man, I feel like it's a massive lost opportunity for the league because Manziel could have been a great star. And I think driven a lot of American eyeballs onto the league. And to be quite honest, brought a lot of revenue into the league that could have gone into the players' pockets and maybe boosted it for the future. So it's too bad that it didn't work out that way and that maybe someone didn't step in there along the way and say, hey, let's not rush this guy in there, because they were looking at Manziel as a savior. But outside of Bo Levi Mitchell, in my time covering the league, there hasn't been a quarterback that stepped in right away and had instant success. So they should have realized that, man.
Not even. And Bo Levi really didn't just step in there like that, right? He was around for a little bit to at least see the game, play behind a couple guys, and then they kind of molded him, and then he stepped in, at a high level. So I mean, I don't know of any guy that stepped into that position and just at a quarterback that just played good right off the bat. It's tough.
Yeah, definitely. So Justin, tell us a little bit about the CFL. What's your take on? We'll go first. What's your take on how the CFL handled everything with this clusterfuck of proposals to the Canadian government? And we've had a lot of opportunity to talk to some people in the league, and what's your opinion on how the CFL handled the COVID situation this last year?
Well, it was a complete disaster, to be quite honest, with the way Randy Ambrosie started that by going to the government and asking for up to $150 million. Now he says, well, that became the headline and the focus, but to be quite honest, guys, and yes, I'm saying it from the reporter's point of view.
Yep.
It's the other people that make this news and the headlines and the story. So when we're talking about Randy Ambrosie asking for 30 million, which is what he wanted it to be, well, you technically asked for up to 150, and you didn't go in there with the business plan. You clearly weren't prepared, and the players didn't even know you were going there either. So you didn't show a united front. So right from the get-go, them relying on the government, it just wasn't going to happen. And I think there is a little bit of truth to the fact that maybe they did dodge a bullet by not playing in 2020, although the NHL and the NBA proved that if it was done in the bubble, which, as Charleston knows, they were working towards in Winnipeg, that they could have kept it safe. And it really would have been largely on the teams and the players to police themselves. So I do think it was a missed opportunity, because they could have got a lot of fresh eyeballs on the game that wouldn't have otherwise watched it. Let's say, for example, my buddies that I played with at the University of Guelph, they grew up playing 3-down ball. They're all NFL dudes. But the only thing that might have been on those days from a sports perspective, if the season had been going on when they had laid it out, sort of September, October, November, would have been CFL football, because NFL's on the weekends largely. Yeah, there were some games that got shifted around, but I think they really missed an opportunity, and the owners didn't necessarily see it as a future investment in terms of the money that they might have put forward for the league to play in 2020. They felt like they were viewing it as immediate losses, which I can understand. And hey, I'm not going to cut the check for them to play, but there was a lot of people that felt like they should have, and that it really could have benefited them in the long run.
Yeah. So Charleston, now that you're on the official CFLPA, and you're the Saskatchewan Rough Rider player,
he's repping, man.
Yeah,
what happens, Charleston, if you don't stay with the Riders, though? Can you still be the team rep in free agency?
Well, that means I appointed a guy that I knew would still be with the Riders, regardless if I wasn't or not, especially because I knew I was a free agent. So I put somebody that I knew I was in direct contact with, and we're good friends. And if he needs help with anything, I can still, guide him on the way as I'm with another team. But technically, I'll still be the rep for Saskatchewan. So
now you know what the headline's going to be, though, right? Charleston Hughes might leave the Riders.
Dunk reports.
Hey, Justin Dunk reports. Straight Out Nation. Charleston Hughes might leave the Riders, but you never know. If I become a free agent, how about this? They just released that you're able to talk to players about re-signing. What, yesterday?
Monday, yeah.
Oh, it was yesterday. Nobody's called me yesterday or today, so
That was going to be my next question, was going to be asked, Justin, what's the big scoop here? Do you have any predictions for Mr. Charleston Hughes? Can you let us know on the show?
He already know what's going on.
All right, how about I say what I think I know, or what I think might happen?
Yeah.
And then Charleston can say what's actually
my agent talking too much.
Yeah.
So from what I've heard from people around the league is that Charleston might want to potentially be a little closer to home. And he's got a connection with a dude that's in charge in Toronto, and John Murphy. They were together in Calgary. And the Argos could use pass rush help And I think Charleston could be a great fit there. He's going to have some suitors after him. And people got to remember that the Hamilton Tiger Cats had traded for him initially in that deal. So he was sort of a Kevin Glenn style part of the organization for what, a few minutes maybe before they flipped you out to Saskatchewan. So I think there's going to be suitors for Charleston Hughes. But man, he's right here. He's the only guy that knows where he's going.
Yeah, let's go to Charleston. Charleston, what the fuck's going on? Where are you going?
Well, you never know. You know what? That's the reason it's called free agency. When it's called free agency, it means all the doors are open come February. So when February rolls around, if I even make it to February, you never know. You never know. Saskatchewan might say, hey, we need this guy here. We need him on our team. All the great things that he does throughout the community. We can't let that kind of thing go. Can't let that stuff go. So, I mean, when it comes down to it, you never know.
So man, it would be hard to see the Riders, and I'm going to go out and say it here, let the best pass rusher in the league go when you've built up such a following out west, and now especially in Regina, and you're committed there, right? Like you've been there for the entire offseason for multiple years, and I think you even start a business there with McKenna Henry, like to get through 2020. So to me, those players are rare to find. And when people talk about identifying with the players that are on the field and the fans want to be able to do that, if the Riders, haven't rung your phone yet, I don't really know what the excuse is to get that done.
And that's, well, Charleston, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, you're 100% correct. But, it's all depending on the powers above.
Well, the one thing too, Justin, that it seems that I've found from CFL fans, as a fan to players, the way that Charleston, you get special players like Don Narcisse, George Reed here in Regina, that have stuck around. And, even though Don's back in Houston, when he spent a majority of his time here after his playing career, the way that Charleston goes out and relates to the community, goes out and does things on his own that I've seen firsthand, that I'm going, what the fuck? This is, Charleston Hughes is going around to table to going around introducing himself, very humble, goes around and trying to be able to do something for the local YWCA. And he's, and me and a buddy are sitting there, we're going, fuck, maybe we should help, Hughesy out here. Maybe we should go around and, but he doesn't ask for that. He'll go to table. He'll do all the work and doing that. And we're going, yeah, let's go do that. I mean, that's the type of character I find in the CFL. When you get those players involved in the community, we hope that they're going to be around for a while, and we hope that the Riders or organizations see the value in this and they would want to have them around for a while. We know that it's a business, but man, it's so good to be able to have these type of individuals in the communities and to have them around. So it's going to be one of those things where there's going to be a lot of Rider fans that are hoping for Mr. Hughes in many years signed here for the future. So yeah. So
yeah, it's a business, but man, what happens in business? It's all about your investment and the return on that investment. Mm-hmm. And nobody gets after the quarterback better than Charleston Hughes. I don't care what age he is, man. Put him on my team, pay him upper echelon defensive end money, and that's the business. It's pretty simple to me. Plus, he's doing all of the off-the-field stuff, always energetic, man. I don't know why you would not want him on your team.
Yep.
Me neither.
we're doing a big picture. I think that Justin and I should get a little percentage of that signing bonus when you get on with the Riders here. Maybe we get a little 2%. Jesse, you want to split it a few percentages here and see how?
No, I'll let Charleston keep it, man. He's putting his body on the line.
I'm taking your percent. I'm going to take Agent Johan's going to come into play. Yeah, no problem. What did you think about Winnipeg? How surprised were you on Winnipeg's success last year and how they did?
Man, I wasn't shocked, to be quite honest. They had a solid core there, and they just needed a quarterback to stay healthy because the defense was stout. I mean, Adam Big Hill was hurt for a little bit, but I mean, he came back. Willie Jefferson was obviously a monster, and Jackson Jeffcoat, I mean, for people that hadn't seen it before, was a star down at the University of Texas and a guy that was really coming up through those ranks. So I think you look at the pieces they had there, obviously Andrew Harris. The offensive line was the big thing with Paul Lapalisse and that run game and how they can keep you on your toes. I mean, Charleston would know all about that they don't just drop back and throw sort of 70% of the time. I think Lapalisse really mix it up, uses weapons well. So it didn't surprise me, but I mean, people look at that situation and you think, if they don't get Zach Collaros, like literally seconds before the trade deadline goes down, how everything could have been different, right? Let's say in the CFL, if they don't get Collaros, to me, I don't think the Bombers make the West Final, let's say, and the Riders host, they go to the Grey Cup. Maybe the Saskatchewan Roughriders are champions, and we're talking about everybody in such a different way. So small things can change history.
Yeah. Yeah. Charleston, how do you feel about that? Is it still sore to be able to think about that game? And do you, what are your images now about Winnipeg?
The thing is this. Do I feel like we should have won? We should have beat Winnipeg. I mean, yeah, we probably should have kicked their butt, but I was also 100% happy for Zach to get out there and finally play a couple games and kind of show that he can still play this game, and he's not written off as being fragile and being concussed all the time, and he can still do it. He can still be a baller. So just lining up across from him was kind of in a wow factor, because I was like, man, he's playing pretty damn good right now. And he hasn't played football all year, all season. Yeah. So if he's a plug and play kind of player like that, I mean, it happened, but it just happened at the wrong damn time. We should have let him go way earlier than that if it was going to be like that. like not let him go and then we got to play against him. Yeah. I mean, I've always known that you never trade good players away within your conference. You trade them away to the other conferences. You trade them away so you don't have to face them. Yeah, so somehow we did that.
Well, he went to Toronto, and then Toronto traded him to Winnipeg.
Oh yeah, because somebody got screwed right there. I don't know who.
You guys got screwed. That's who got screwed.
That's how you know it's always a lot of backstabbing going on. Because I went to Hamilton and ended up in SAS, so Calgary got backstabbed right there, and we got backstabbed by Toronto right there. So it's always the up yours, buddy factor.
Yo, Charleston, did you think you were staying in Hamilton?
Oh, hell no.
You didn't? Oh, no. You know you were going to Sask?
I got my little birdies, too.
Okay, just checking.
You did not know, did you? So you knew.
I knew before I left Huff's office, before I took 5 steps out of Huff's office, and he said, "Are you mad at me because I traded you?" And I was like, "No." You're gonna have to face me again, anyway.
Yeah, look how that turned out. So
that's so good, man.
So, what I want to ask you, you just had on your 3 Down Nation podcast, you just had Moncrief on your podcast there. Are you surprised about some of these players coming from the CFL and how they're doing in the NFL? I think for us, it's been great to be able to see the success of a lot of the guys that have made the jump from the CFL to the NFL. But what's your take on all the success that these guys have been having?
No, definitely not surprised at all, man, because as Charleston can attest, and one thing I learned quickly covering the league is that it's really just about getting your opportunity down there. And I know Charleston had said earlier in the offseason, I think it was great, man. He said he felt like he'd be one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. And he's probably right, because a lot of these guys get put in the situations. And what happens down there, I feel like a lot of the times, is the draft is so crucial in terms of how high you go. And a lot of people think it's because of the money. And yeah, it is. But the draft capital that these teams sink into players gives you more runway to get comfortable down there. So if you're a first round pick, you can make more mistakes. But if you're an undrafted free agent, you make one mistake and you're cut and you're out of there. And if you find yourself in that situation, the ideal situation that is, maybe a coach takes a liking to you quickly, or let's say hypothetically, what's going on right now with Alex Singleton in Philadelphia. He specifically chose to go there over some other interested teams because he looked at the linebacking core and said, I think there's an opportunity here where I can legitimately get on the field. It took him a year of balling out and being a special teams demon, but he's finally getting defensive reps in 2020 and showing what he can do. And, I've had people say to me, like, Singleton's going to be the next Cam Wake, that he maybe didn't have the career that Wake did, let's say, in Canada, and he's still got a long way to go to be Wake in the NFL. but you can see how he's on that trajectory. Like he's had double-digit tackles in a number of games now. So it's about finding yourself in that right opportunity. And the same thing, as you alluded to off the top, would be for Derek Moncrief. He was originally signed to the Las Vegas Raiders. Well, they go out in free agency, sign some high-priced dudes, draft a couple, gets released before he even gets to training camp. Then he goes to LA at the end of training camp when a lot of people are like, he's just going to be a body there and he's going to get cut. Makes the team, is on the practice roster, gets called up and plays in his first game against Sam McGuavin. So right place, right time, and you develop those relationships. And that's where I feel like, I've seen some players come out of the Canadian university ranks and they kind of get a little cocky and they think they're going to get an NFL shot and they don't quite understand the landscape. And I think a lot that goes into it also is the relationships that you make. That if you come in that door, and I'd be curious to get Charleston's take on this, and you're open and you're not cocky and you're able to be taught and you're listening and doing the right things, that those coaches take a liking to you. And I think that's exactly what's happened with Singleton in Philadelphia and Moncrief in LA.
Yeah. Yeah, when it came down to Alex, like we all knew that he was a ball player. Like he was doing stuff in Calgary that was like way beyond, any other linebacker / fake Canadian that ever came up to Canada. So I mean, it's absolutely amazing that he's got down there. I mean, what people don't know is, this is probably crazy, will baffle everybody's mind, is that he was going to walk away from being a practice roster player in Philadelphia to go back to Calgary, and I talked him out of it. So he called me personally to say, hey man, he was like, Calgary's offered me a lot of money to come down here and play for Calgary and be the man in the CFL. And I told him honestly, like, man, if you come back here, you are stupid. I would not do that if I were you. I was like, you never know what's going to happen about your opportunity up there. If they're offering you to be a practice roster player, be a practice roster player, relax, wait it out, see what happens. You never know what injury is going to happen. I was like, and plus, let's be honest, Philadelphia linebackers aren't that good. They're okay, but you're just as good as any linebacker that they have right now. I was like, man, just wait it out and just see what happens. Because the minute you get your opportunity, that's your chance to go out there and show that you can do it. And he waited it out just like I told him to, and balled out like crazy when he got his chances. And I think if I didn't have that talk with him to tell him, like, look, man, this is you got this CFL stuff anytime you want it. You can always come back here, and that same amount of money that they're offering you now will be on the table 5, 6 years, 7 years from now. If you even come back, it'll be there for you. But that NFL window, it ain't always going to be there for you. So you got to take it and exhaust it for as long as you can to say that in yourself and believe in your heart that, all right, I had my opportunity. I took full advantage of it. I tried to follow through with it. It didn't work out. Go back to the CFL. But I was like, man, you're crazy if you come back.
That was this year after, or was that last year that he gave you that phone call?
That was before.
I think it was in January, right?
Yeah. That was January last year.
And look where he is today. Like Justin said, I mean, he's having a phenomenal season. I don't know if it would be all pro, but he's up there, and he's definitely going to make his mark in the NFL for the next few years. I don't even know what kind of contract does he have.
He's probably going into like a 1-year contract, 1 and 2 year contract. So he should be up for at least some kind of re-signing.
Nice payday and be able to do that. Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that, like you said, Justin, I mean, Charleston knows this too, is that it's the right opportunity at the right time. These guys in the CFL, you hear this from so many people. They're a hell of an athletes. They are phenomenal. The play in the CFL is a lot different from the NFL, and to adjust and go down to the NFL, they are just as talented. And the only thing in the NFL is there's that small percentage of athletes that are freak athletes, like the Beckhams, and these guys that are just unbelievable. But there's lots of talent here in the CFL, and we're lucky for that. I wanted to ask you a quick question about the XFL. What's your thoughts on the XFL and how it's going to succeed? Do you think that it's going to have an influence on players coming up to the CFL? Are they going to want to stay? And, what's your take on the XFL? Is it going to be a difference with the CFL players and everything like that? Or what do you think about how the XFL is going to be run?
Man, the future is so hard to predict. We know The Rock has obviously bought the league, and June Jones said just the other day, the former Ticats head coach, he's committed to being a head coach in that league. And I think, it could have its place, but still in the long term, we got to see if it's viable. I think in the short term, in terms of the CFL and competing for players, there's definitely going to be some guys that opt to play in the XFL, but a lot of people out there are like, well, there's going to be this big talent drain in the CFL. Well, Charleston knows this. There's tons of guys that want to play ball. And I think that because the game's a little bit different, that the type of athlete don't necessarily will affect the CFL product overall. So unless the XFL becomes like a big legitimate league and runs for a number of years and starts adding teams, then that's when I think we can really talk about it being a legitimate competition for the CFL. But I mean, CFL's got to get back on the field itself in 2021. But I think until the XFL proves its long-term viability, that, a conversation is really a moot point.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, well, last question for me. What's your best CIS story?
Oh my goodness.
Because I'm a Saskatoon boy.
I didn't even know you was a quarterback. I saw you getting your back broken a couple pictures online. So you obviously one.
Are you sure? No, I think the only pictures that exist online are me stiff arming Western DBs or linebackers. But anyway,
let's here. I like that. What's
Man,
best moment player covering it? CIS.
That's a good question. I mean, I guess what comes to mind first for me, and a lot of people might not know this, is Vaughn Martin is a Canadian defensive lineman that played a number of years in the NFL. He actually played for Western.
Yeah.
I remember this guy could just flick it on and off like a switch, bro. And we were down on the goal line one year. We actually beat them in homecoming game on this.
Did he play for Miami?
Game, but yeah, he was in San Diego, I think, a little bit with the Chargers.
Yeah.
I have to look at the rest of the team. But he was in the NFL for a while. He might have been with Miami. For a little bit. But big defensive tackle, super athletic. And like the guy's literally like talking trash as he's in his stance. But we beat him on homecoming. I'm trying to think if I got any juicy stories, man. Like nothing like real crazy. I think like on the health and safety side, the only thing that comes to mind for me, and people talk about concussions and all the head injuries, is I remember, I think it was my last year of homecoming, ran into the end zone, flipped over and like smacked my head, scored a touchdown. So I didn't care, get up, and like Charleston is Canada. So we call it packed house here, like 10,000 people. And it was full. We had the bowl full. It was nice at Guelph, right? All the co-eds were out and all that kind of good stuff. But I remember getting up and I smacked my head on the ground so hard because I literally did like a sort of a full flip. And my left eye was blurry, but I was like, yo, fuck this. I'm not coming out of the game. It's homecoming. We're playing against Western. It ended up being a close like shootout loss. And I played the whole second half with a blurry left eye. And we were like, neck and neck with Western. We were both ranked in the top 10 at the time. So I just wish that I didn't have that blurry eye that I had to play with, man. But that's the best I got for you, sports.
That is too funny. How about this? Who was your top receiver?
Oh, actually, my favorite receiver that I played with, Dave McCoy, was a former Riders draft pick in the second round back in, like 2008. I don't know if you would have played against him, though, Charleston, remembered him, because he had some knee injuries, but dude was super talented, man. He was my boy. Still to this day, we're tight, but he would have been my favorite receiver, Dave McCoy.
What about running back?
Running back would be Nick Fitzgibbon, man. He's killing the realtor game, and he actually had a big block in the Grey Cup when Winnipeg played out in BC Place. I can't remember who they played, but he had a big block in the Grey Cup. He was a all-time leading running back as well.
Last player, offensive tackle.
Ooh, man, that's an easy one. Ryan Bombin.
Right, but okay, now I'm heating up because I'm trying to figure out which one of these players that you know giving you these inside scoops. So Bombin the only one that's still playing, huh?
Carlson's trying to dig.
That's the best part is everyone thinks that it's the people that I know or like the youth sports people that I know. It's like, you can't be putting your personal connections on the line like that, right? So I'll actually tell you a story. Here, I'll give you some goods, man. This never been told before. I think it's absolute, complete fucking bullshit because this is what went down with Ryan Bauman in Hamilton. They thought that he was leaking me information So they traded his ass to Montreal, and it was the furthest thing from the truth. But the perception was, because I was tight with him and I was getting all these scoops in Charleston, you know, man, like I get stuff from everywhere on everybody's team.
Yeah.
So the sources I had within the Ticats were not bombing at all, because I never wanted to affect his career or anybody else that I played with or had connections with from U Sports. But they actually traded him because they thought he was a leak in the building. I'm going, are you kidding me? And if you thought he was, at least come to me and talk to me and say, look, what's going on with you and Ryan here? We know you have a relationship that goes back to the University of Guelph. And I would have told him straight up, man, I'm not going to lie. And you can tell when people are lying when you're talking to them face to face, as you guys well know. It just blew my mind that was one of the main reasons that they traded away a guy that was voted on the CFL All-Decade team.
Yeah, that sucks to even. You can't be accusing players like that or making assumptions. You can easily cold hard facts if you're gonna make an assumption like that. Really.
Yeah, exactly, man. Imagine if like a team released or traded you, Charleston, was like, you did this, and they had no facts, they had no proof, and it was a complete lie. Like, I just can't even imagine being a player in that position.
That's why I'm not in Calgary no more. Nah, let me quit.
Throwing out the lies out there and doing it. I can't imagine still too. How would you feel though, Justin, too? Like, I mean, you still had to be able to feel a little bit of, you know, not remorse, but I mean, it fucking would have sucked for you because you're kind of put in an awkward situation where they're accusing you of going to him and to do that. And you're going, and you can't give up your sources, right? You can't go to him and say, hey, fuck. It sucks all around for everybody.
Well, but that's the thing though, is I didn't hear about this until afterwards, right? Like, you know, Ryan didn't even tell me. And then other people in the organization said, well, you know, this is why he was dealt with. This is the real reason. Cause I'm going, you know, he's a Burlington guy, right? So you're playing for your hometown team in the Ticats. Yeah. And he was a first round pick, a guy that they had traded for and given up some assets for. And like I said, he was on the CFL All-Decade team. I mean, like he wasn't playing tackle, but the guy's a super athletic dude playing guard. So like, at least come and talk to me. Mm-hmm. But he didn't even get that opportunity. They didn't take him at his word. And if anyone knows Ryan, man, like honestly, that guy, if you're tight with him and he's one of your boys, just like anyone else's day ones, like he's going to have your back. I mean, he still does. I'll always have his, but I removed that from the equation in terms of sourcing and stories because I don't want to put him in that situation. But the teams assume it. Yet when you have a story that gets put out that teams don't like, you know, they call it fake news or they say that it's not correct when, man, I'm batting 1,000. And I just think when you turn around and do that the other way, when you don't take a guy for his word, that it's hypocritical.
Yeah. Fuck. Yeah, man. It's a tough industry sometimes. I feel bad for you. Now they get to know the real stories. So Charleston, anything else you wanted? Make sure that you get this opportunity now.
I don't know, man. I ain't gonna ask no more questions about players that he know. I'm just gonna keep to myself.
He's gonna keep on asking you, drilling for the sources. Different ways. Anything else you want to ask him, Charleston?
I don't know, man. I think that's about it, man. I mean, how about this? We didn't even touch on this topic. How the heck did you get into media out of football? How did you phase into the two?
Oh,
From
damn,
football,
that's actually crazy.
Phasing into media.
I tell Charlie that Cole's notes version. So I remember being in my 5th year of university, and like when you're in your first couple years in Charleston, you can play 5 years in U Sports, right? When I was in my first couple years, I'm like, yo, this is never going to end. I'm going to play 5 years. Football is going to be amazing. And like, I didn't even think about my future. But again, in my 4th and 5th years, I'm like, what do I want to do? So I actually grew up on a family farm just outside of Guelph in rural Ontario. So that was sort of like always the backup plan, right? Because the family's done a great job and growing it up. So, I can sort of understand what people in the prairies are like, right? Those good farm boy roots. But I was like, I always loved being around sports, right? We used to get Sports Illustrated delivered when it was back in the day before all this crazy social media stuff. Man, I used to run to the end of Laneway every day to check if I got the newest episode. I would watch whatever I could on TV. We got like 3 channels out in the boonies on our little like rabbit ears antenna kind of stuff. So after my 5th year anyways, I was like, I want to get into media. So there was a local CTV Kitchener sports reporter named Darren Stevenson that covered our team. And I said, you know, how did I get into this? And he actually did it proper. He went to school for it. So he brought me in. I shouted him for a little while. I said, you know, I might give this a try. So I got fortunate. The student paper at the University of Guelph actually was independent and they paid people. So when I was done playing ball, played a season out in Germany of football, American football, because they bring you over and they'll pay you to play out there. Came back, had the newspaper job set up, which I got paid for. So instead of going to school and paying out a bunch of money, I just learned on the job. And then from there, it just took off. I got fortunate that I'd made some connections with, I think a lot of people would know the show, Tim and Sid from around the country. I got a good connection with Tim McAuliffe when he used to cover our games on University Rush for the Score way back in the day. He helped me get into the Score, and then I just kept leveling up from there. The Score television portion got bought by Sportsnet, so I moved over to Sportsnet and then just kept, you know, hustling, making connections, sourcing stories, and here we are today.
That's awesome. Arash Madani is a friend of mine. So next time you see Arash, I call him Mr. Saskatchewan because he's always on the air. Fucking, if he's not on the Rod Pearson show, he's on, you know, the Jamie Knight show. He's on all these different shows, man. I'm sick and tired of hearing about him and his Vikings and sucking and Kirk Cousins and all this shit. I call Arash Mr. Saskatchewan. That's awesome. He came from and what a great network. And now look at the success that you're doing. You have 3 Down Nation. And man, it seems like you're, like I said, I call you the Adam Schefter of the CFL. So congrats on all your success. And we wish you nothing but the best. Thanks for coming on the show. We always close it off with Charleston's famous last words. So I'll give you some Charleston's wisdom.
Hey, is that plant back there real?
Nah.
That was my last question. Don't worry.
Oh, you're gonna grill him for another source? Is that?
Yeah, I was thinking for sources. Is it a camera in that plant?
You never know. You never know, bro.
Nah, man, this is the Better with Age podcast, man. Thanks for coming on the Better with Age podcast. This was one that I was waiting for to jump on here with Justin Duncan, kind of drilling with questions, give him a hard time. But the reason we call this Better with Age, because there's many things that get better with age. There's leathers, there's whiskey, there's wine. But the most important thing of them all is friendships. I want the same friendship you had with Bauman. That's all I want. That's all me and Johan want. That's what Better with Age and all the supporters and fans and viewers that are out there watching right now, they just want to be your friend, man. So give us a break.
I feel you, man. We need more of that goodness in our world, especially dealing with all this COVID-19 and stuff, man. We're tighter together, boys. I'm happy to be on because, to be honest, like Charleston, you've been good to me over the years in terms of, you know, interviews and messing around and just being one of the boys. I feel like that's one of the great things about the CFL, man, is the people in it are so great, and I just hope it can come back strong.
Yeah, definitely. And then when you're in Saskatoon, I grew up in Saskatoon, so I know a few different watering holes we can go in. Like you said, great restaurants, of course, Saskatoon, Regina. Make sure no matter where Charleston's playing, hit us up when you're here, and we'd love to be able to meet up for a beverage or two.
You bet, man.
All right, Charleston.
Hell yeah, with my sad stuff on still.
Breaking story.
Oh!
All right. On that note, we'll see you later. All right. Thanks, Justin. All the best.
Thanks, fellas.